Hey, what is going on guys? RvzStealth here, and in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the mid lane tier list for patch 8.1. Now, I'm pretty sure by the time this video does go live, the new rank season will have started, so good luck in your placement games if you do decide to play them right at the start. Now, I've already made a tier list in this patch for both the top lane and the jungle, so if you're interested in either one of those videos, then I will leave an annotation up in the top right-hand corner of the screen there. But with that being said, guys, let's get started. So the first champion we're going to take a look at in this video is going to be a pick that I don't think I've ever had in the tier 1 for mid lane, and it's going to be Brand. So Brand got a buff in this patch to his passive to where the percent HP damage got increased from 2% up to 4%. So the damage got doubled on that, and it's really helped him out here in 8.1. A lot of different pro players have started to pick him up in this patch. The room page I have on screen here is the one that Jensen was running on his Brand. And the build is also very interesting as well. A lot of mid laners right now, especially in Korea, are going Frost Queen's Rush on a lot of different mid lane champions. Now, I think the reason to why this is a pretty viable option is because, number one, Frost Queens is a very cost efficient item. It's 2,200 gold, and you're going to be able to pick that up very early on into the game. The stats the item gives are really all you want for a mid lane champion. You've got AP, you've got CDR, you've got mana regen, and then I think the underrated parts of the item, or the parts of the item that make it really good on a lot of these immobile mages, is the fact that you do have your ghost that you can put out to slow the enemies and kite them, and you also do have the bonus movement speed that you'll be getting when you do, I think, collect 850 gold with the item, or is it 750 gold? It's either one or the other, but once you do end up getting your quest completed, that bonus movement speed just allows you to kite really nicely with your abilities. And I think another reason to why this item is good is because the slow you get from the Frost Queens, if you have Liandry's as well, it will activate the extra damage from Liandry's, because I'm pretty sure the damage from the Liandry's burn is doubled if the enemy is movement impaired. So all of your abilities, like if you put your ghosts out with your Frost Queens and then you use like your W on Brand and your Q, you're going to be automatically getting that bonus damage even if you don't hit your stun. So I just think overall it's just a very cost efficient item, and it's an item that pretty much all of these mid laners or these immobile mid lane champions can really use well. Now keep in mind that in 8.2, I'm pretty sure they're just removing Frost Queens as an item, so this build will no longer be viable in 8.2, so just keep that in mind here. And the build in 8.2, you'd probably just swap out the Frost Queens for a Morello. So overall though, for Brand, he's doing a lot better in this patch. He is one of the best teamfight mages, so once you do reach your 2 to 3 item spike, once you get your Frost Queens, your Liandry's, and your Rylai's, you are one of the strongest teamfight mages. And I think that the fact that you only have to land like a good ultimate in a teamfight to be effective with Brand just makes him a pretty easy and a pretty reliant champion to play. I feel like even if you fall behind with Brand in the early game, because he does have that percent HP damage built into his kit, it allows him to just scale really nicely, and he doesn't really have to have items to be effective. So I just think overall he is a great pick for solo queue in 8.1. So the second champion in the tier 1 here is going to be Katarina. Now I'm not going to go too much into detail about her because she's been in the tier 1 for I think the last few patches now. Basically, Katarina is, in my opinion, the best assassin for 8.1. She's really easy to snowball with in the early game. You only need to get like one item on Katarina with your Gunblade, and then you really start to take over the game. If you can get to your Gunblade spike and you haven't died a bunch of times in the laning phase, then you're going to be able to have great success on the champion. Against a lot of these like immobile mages being played, you can really look to punish them in the laning phase. You can just dodge their skill shots pretty easily with your E. You can jump on them, burst them down quickly, and then you can just rinse and repeat, and it's just super easy in my opinion to get a really good snowball going in the early game with this champion. And then one interesting thing to note about the runes on Katarina, Last Stand actually does have a better win percent than something like Coup de Grace does on Katarina. Now the reason for this is because Katarina is going to be reaching low HP a lot of the time during team fights, and because she does have her resets, her potential to just keep dealing out damage when she does get low on HP is really high, and therefore by taking the Last Stand, you will be able to a lot of the time deal more damage during team fights than if you would take Coup de Grace. So another pick here that's been tier 1 for a little while now, or probably longer than a little while. He's been strong for at least the past few months, and it's Malzahar. So Mal's with Spellbook, that's what he's doing best with in 8.1. You're going to take the Spellbook, and you're a lot of the time going to take Teleport as your secondary summoner spell in the early game. Depending on the matchup, like if it's an easy matchup, you can take Ignite or Heal, but if you're in a harder lane, like if you're in a matchup to where you are going to get poked out in the early game, then taking the Teleport as your secondary summoner and just using that to get back to lane is gonna let you have a lot more success on Malzahar. And then once you do reach the mid to late game, a lot of people do swap out that Teleport for the Ghost or the Exhaust, just depending on what the enemy team comp does have. If they have a Fed Assassin on their team, then grab the Exhaust. If you just want to stay super mobile in team fights, then grab the Ghost. And then I don't think I really need to say too much else about Malzahar. He's just a very easy to play mage mid lane champion. If you're new to mid lane or if you're auto-filled to mid lane, then I would recommend picking him up for sure. If you're just looking for a pick that is going to give you some early season freeload, then I would be looking to pick up Malzahar. So a new addition here to the tier 1 for this patch is going to be Vladimir. So like Brand, Vladimir is doing very well in 8.1 with this new Frost Queens build. A lot of people are going that Frost Queens on Vladimir. They're also building the Liandries there, so you're gonna get that enhanced damage from all of your abilities right at the start once you do end up slowing the enemy with that Frost Queen. So it does allow Vladimir to do even more burst damage with a very early 2-item power spike with the Frost Queens, and then once you just generate a ton of gold with that item, and because it's such a cost efficient item, you will be getting to your Liandries or your Proto Belt very fast in the game, and it just allows you to hit a really nice mid-game power spike. And once you do hit your mid-game power spike as Vlad, I think he is one of the strongest like mid to late game mid lane champions if you know how to play him well. His one-shot potential with that Ignite is super good, and also another thing that's really good with the Frost Queens on Vlad is that it does give you that burst of movement speed. So it's kind of like the old Storm Raiders on Vlad in a sense. You will be able to get in there by slowing them with the Frost Queens. You can like flash in, use your E. You're going to be getting that movement speed when you do hit your abilities, so you're going to be hard to like catch during team fights. So I just think overall this new item build on Vlad with that Frost Queens just synergizes really nicely with his kit. Vlad is also one of the safer laning mid lane champions. There's not too many hard matchups for Vlad. The only picks that he does kind of struggle with against are Malzahar and Anivia, and just any champion that can zone him really well in team fights. So it's harder against Malz because he can just use his ultimate on you when you try to dive in, and then Anivia can also just block you off with her wall or her ultimate. And then Spellbook is great on Vladimir too. You're going to take that because in the early game you can run Ignite and look for some kill pressure, and then in the mid to late game you can swap that Ignite out for Ghost to just stay super mobile during team fights. And then also it's really good on Vlad because you do rely on having your flash up in order to just get onto the back line and one-shot your target, and because the Spellbook does reduce the cooldown of your summoner spells by 25%, it just allows Vlad to just play aggressive and look for his all-in combo a lot more often. And then to round out the tier 1s for this patch is going to be Xerath. So in my opinion, Xerath is probably the best longer range mage that you can play in 8.1. He's just a pretty safe pick. His matchups are really good right now. The only picks he really struggles against are Fizz. So if you are looking to play Xerath, then I would just ban out Fizz, because honestly that's the only matchup that I really struggled with when I have been playing Xerath recently. He's just super good if you can get ahead with him in the early game. If you get ahead with this pick, just make sure you're telling your team to group up, look to siege, because you just do a ton of damage once you do get like your Morello and your Ludens. You can like half health the target with just one Q, and then you can use your ultimate to just poke them off of towers, and your siege is just insanely strong if you do get a lead with this champion. Mana Flow Band and Xerath passive pretty much makes him never go in the laning phase, and this is a reason to why he's gotten a lot stronger in the preseason and now in season 8, because he just really never runs out of mana in the laning phase. The tower health changes that occurred, I think it was in 7.24 or 7.23, really help out Xerath as well, because it means that towers are just going to stay up a lot longer, because they do now have, I think it was 300 or 400 more HP, so it's a lot harder for the enemy team to crack the mid lane tower or just crack any tower against Xerath, due to the fact that he does have some of the best wave clear for any mid lane champion. So for the tier 2 in this patch, as you can see here, there's a lot of different picks that you can play to some good success in patch 8.1. The champions that I would look out for in this patch, or that I would prioritize a little bit more than the others, would be picks like Talia. I think Talia is a really strong mid lane pick, great shove and roam mid laner. Zoe's also really strong, and Zoe was borderline like tier 1 for this patch. I think that if you can play Zoe to her fullest potential, then she can be one of the strongest mid laners in 8.1. Another pick I think is pretty underrated right now is Fizz. Fizz can do really well against picks like that Xerath that does have a pretty high play rate. He can also do pretty well against Brand right now, who is going to see more popularity in this patch. So if you're looking for another good assassin other than Katarina, I think that Fizz is definitely up there in patch 8.1. And then to round out the video for this patch is the tier 3 champions, and these are the picks that I would probably stay away from. If your main goal is to climb at the start of the season here, then picks like Ryze, Cassio, Syndra, and Victor are just a little bit underwhelming for season 8. All of these champions just struggle right now in most meta matchups. They're all pretty bad versus assassins, and they're also all pretty bad against these like longer range mid lane picks like the Xerath or the Vel'Koz. So unless you are a one trick of these champions, I don't think they're really worth playing right now in season 8. So that is going to be all for this video, guys. Good luck in your placement games if you do decide to play them at the start of the season. I did make a video recently on ways that you can like increase your chances of winning your placement games, so I will also leave an annotation to that video in the top right hand corner of the screen here if you want to check that one out as well. But with that being said, guys, if you did enjoy the video, then be sure to leave a like, subscribe if you've yet to already. So thanks for watching, have an awesome day, and I will see you in my next video.